The air in Mercy Falls, Missouri, doesn't just turn cold. It swallows your breath. You hear a single, wet drip in the dark, and you realize it's been following you for years. You cannot outrun a consecration. So tell me, what happens when the thing that loves you has already died? My name is Mason. I don't trust silence anymore. I don't trust the dark corners of a room, no matter how still they seem. I don't trust the feeling of being watched when I know I am alone. This is why. Winter 2014. I was hollowed out. My mother had died that autumn. Cancer. Slow. Cruel. I was a bell with no clapper, just empty space where something used to ring. Broke and numb, I took a warehouse job in a place called Mercy Falls, Missouri. A name that should have been my first warning. I was sleeping in a motel that smelled of bleach and other people's regrets when a coworker named Garrett offered me a way out. He'd found an apartment. An old parsonage, decommissioned by the church. Cheap. Too cheap. The church sold it off, Garrett said, his eyes doing that thing they always did, measuring you when you weren't looking. They say it's got character. The first time I walked through that door, I felt it. Not a chill. A pressure. The air was heavier inside, like the whole building was breathing in. The floors were gleaming amber. Leaded glass windows threw colored light onto the walls. It looked holy. It felt like a sanctuary. The landlord, a man named Pritchard whose smile was just a muscular tick, named a rent so low I laughed. He didn't laugh back. He just handed me the keys. The last tenants, he said, his eyes finally meeting mine, they left in a hurry. Nothing to worry about. Just keep the doors closed at night. The first sign was the smell. Not rot. Something sweeter. Beneath the beeswax and fresh paint was an undertone, thick, cloying, like funeral flowers left in a locked room. And underneath that, copper. Blood. Old blood. We ignored it. Old buildings, old smells. That's what we told ourselves. Our third roommate, Tommy, moved in a week later. He was a skeptic, the kind who chased ghost stories just to poke holes in them. The first night, he sat up in the living room, staring at a narrow alcove off the main hallway. It was empty, just a single brass hook on the wall where a statue of the Virgin must have once stood. "Hey, Mason," he said, his voice flat in a way I'd never heard. "You feel that? Like something's breathing back there," we mocked him. Called him spooked. But that night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake it. The air in that alcove felt like it was moving, circulating, like the slow, patient breath of something asleep, something waiting. Then the sickness began. A low fever that came and went. A cough that rattled in my chest like loose change. One morning, I coughed into the sink and saw the phlegm streaked with black. Not red. Black. Like ink. Like rot given color. Tommy woke with scratches on his back. 3 parallel lines, too precise for dreams, too deep for accident. They looked like they'd been made by fingernails. Long, thin fingernails. Garrett grew gaunt. His eyes sank into his skull. He stopped eating. He just sat in the living room at night, staring at that alcove, whispering. When I asked him what he was saying, he looked at me like I was a stranger. "She's counting," he whispered. "She's counting the days until we're ready. We weren't being haunted. We were being prepared." There was a light fixture in that hallway, an old brass sconce pointing directly at the alcove. Dead since I moved in. The switch did nothing. One night, drunk on cheap whiskey and frayed nerves, Tommy snapped. He stood up, pointed a shaking finger at that dark recess, and shouted, "If you're there, show yourself." "We're not afraid of you." The room went silent. The kind of silence that has weight, that presses on your eardrums. Then, click. The dead sconce blazed to life. The light was wrong. Jaundiced. Sick. It didn't illuminate the alcove, it pushed the shadows forward, made them thicker, darker. And in that foul, urine-yellow glow, something moved. A silhouette. A woman. Tall. Impossibly thin. Her head tilted at an angle that should have broken her neck. Then the bulb shattered. And from the darkness came a sound. Soft. Wet. A single, deliberate drip. I ran. Spent the night driving country roads, my hands shaking on the wheel, telling myself it was exhaustion. Grief. Anything but the truth. The next day, a woman from work, Maggie, a sweet girl with a gift for knowing things she shouldn't, stopped me in the parking lot. She went pale, grabbed my arm. "Mason," she whispered, her grip like iron. "There's something on you. Something old. It's not a ghost. It's a fixation. A hunger. Get out of that place. Tonight." But I was broke. Tired. Ashamed to admit I was terrified. I stayed. The end began when Tommy fell violently ill. Shivering under piles of blankets, his teeth chattering, his eyes wide with something worse than fever. Garrett and I left for medicine. We were gone 40 minutes. We came back to silence. Not quiet. Silence. The kind that swallows sound before it can form. We found Tommy in the hallway, kneeling in front of that alcove. Naked. His skin gray. His lips moving. "It came out of the wall," he said, his voice a child's voice, small and broken. "The woman." But she wasn't a woman. Her face. It was smooth. Like stone that forgot how to be a face. And she was dripping. Dripping something dark. She reached for me. She called me. "Beloved," she said, "she's been waiting." She said we're all going to be together soon. That broke us. Tommy fled to his parents' house the next morning. He spent 6 months in a psychiatric ward. He never answered my calls again. Garrett disappeared 3 days later. But before he went, he called me. His voice was a hollow scrape. "Mason," he said, "I went to the old cemetery. The one on the hill. I knew the place. Overgrown. Abandoned. Local legend said it was haunted by the victims of a fire that burned the original chapel 100 years ago. There was a man there," Garrett whispered, "standing by the gate. He gave me directions back to town. Wouldn't look at me. But his face, Mason. His face, who was it?" I asked, my blood already cold. "It was your mother, Mason. It was your mother's face, stretched over something else. And it smiled at me. It knew me." The line went dead. My mother's ashes had been scattered in that cemetery. Garrett had opened a door. And something had followed him home. I was alone then. I lasted 4 more days. Each night, the dripping grew louder. Each morning, I woke with scratches on my own back, my sheets stained with something dark and sweet-smelling. The truth came from an old woman at the diner. Mrs. Klein. She recognized the address I gave her. Her face went hard. "That parsonage," she said, lowering her voice. "Bad business. Back in the 70s, there was a young priest there. Father Callahan. Handsome. Charismatic. The women loved him. But he got tangled up with one of them, a girl named Mary. She was troubled, saw things, heard things. He thought her beauty was a demon's trap, thought he could save her by cleansing her. She leaned closer. I could smell coffee and grief on her breath. One night the screams started. They found them in that little alcove, the one where they used to keep the statue. He tried to cut the demon out of her with a knife. Then he carried her to the window. 3rd floor. They say he jumped right after, holding her. A marriage or a murder. The church sealed it, called it a tragic lapse, but the ones who knew. We called it something else. What? I asked, though I already knew. A desecration. They bound themselves to each other in that room, Mason. In blood. In madness. In a sacrament never meant for the living. And whatever they became, it never left. I confronted the landlord. Did someone die in that apartment? A murder-suicide. He hung up. Blocked my number. The final act was one of desperate terror. I found a retired priest, Father Matheson, living outside town. He was old, his face lined like a riverbed, his eyes tired. "The place isn't haunted by the dead," he said quietly. "It is poisoned by the perversion of the sacred. That alcove is a wound. He is still trying to finish his sacrament. He thinks he's saving you. She thinks she's loving you. Together, they will never stop trying to pull you into their marriage. Into their eternity." He gave me instructions. "Go during the day. Take only what is yours. Touch nothing that belongs to the place. Do not look into that alcove. Do not answer if you hear your name. Speak the prayer of Saint Michael as you leave. And Mason, do not look back." I went back one last time. The apartment was silent, oppressively so. The cold from that alcove bled into the hall like a breath. I grabbed my boxes, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I didn't look. I didn't stop. As I backed toward the door, I felt it. A pull. A yearning. A hunger so old and so patient, it felt like gravity. I began the prayer, my voice trembling. "Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil." From the alcove came a sound. A soft, wet inhale. Then a whisper, woven from 2 voices, male and female, speaking as one. "Do not leave us, beloved. The sacrament is not complete. We have your name. We have your grief. We have been waiting so long." I ran. I purified everything. I moved states. I changed my number. For a year, I thought I had escaped. I was wrong. Last week, I woke at 3:17 a.m. I later learned that was the exact time Father Callahan and Mary died. The power in my new apartment had failed. Not a blackout. Just my home. Just my bedroom. In the perfect smothering dark, a new scent seeped from the heating vent. Funeral flowers. Incense. The copper tang of old blood. Then, a drip. 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 From the corner of my bedroom, where the shadow was deepest, a voice spoke, not from outside, but from inside my own skull. "We have found you, beloved. We never left. We were only waiting for you to be ready. The sacrament is forever. And forever is just beginning." I turned on the light. The corner was empty. But on my pillow, pressed into the fabric like a brand, were 3 marks. 3 parallel lines. Fresh. Wet. And still warm. This is the story of the parsonage at Mercy Falls. It is not a ghost story. It is a consecration. The most profound evil does not roar. It whispers. It kneels beside you in the dark and tells you that you are not alone. It offers you the thing you want most and asks only for everything you are in return. It mistakes possession for love. It mistakes murder for mercy. So listen closely, family. If you are ever offered a sanctuary that feels too pure, too peaceful, if the cold settles not in the air but in your bones, if you feel the fervent, hungry gaze of something that believes it is saving you, run. Some places are not haunted by what was lost, but by what was joined together in an act so profane it became a door that can never be closed. And some blessings are not gifts. They are invitations to a wedding where the bride and groom are already dead. And they have been waiting for you to say, I do. If you have a story that haunts you, send it to contact.thedreadcodex@gmail.com. Your truth becomes our tale. Your likes and comments keep these stories alive. Until next time, may your path be lit. May your faith be your own. And if you hear dripping in the dark, do not turn to look. Good night.